Now, one person we did hear from today for the first time, Karen Read herself, doubling down, of course, saying she did not do this. She wants to know who did.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
Let's go.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Well, what we're going to talk about today, sorry it was late. I was watching Patty's Playhouse. Got carried away a little bit while I was waiting for this video to upload. I really wanted to talk about Karen Read tossing her arrow at Brian Higgins. And I've changed my opinion a little bit on this since listening to it a couple times again. And originally I thought like, oh, he's really on to Karen. I don't think it's quite so much that he was on to Karen as Karen found out that he was not going to be the compliant victim that she wanted. It wasn't going to be an easy conquest and wasn't going to be easy to manipulate. And I think that really threw the ringer in it. We're going to watch it together, starting just with the text messages back and forth from the weed whacker Karen, the weed whacker, and Brian Higgins. He just asked way too many questions. At times was pretty observant about what Karen Read was doing. You'll see. He says to her, do you get mad when you don't get your way? It's like, yeah, right on target, Brian Higgins, right on target. So we're going to go through his testimony and the text messages that were sent back and forth between Brian Higgins. I think he was very on board with it. If things were going badly with John O'Keefe, I think he was totally on board. I think he thought Karen was, way above out of his league and was not going to be his fool. I mean, she really pinned him as a chump. And he was not quite as, hold on one second, guys. Sorry, that is my Achilles heel. I forget to plug in my computer until the last minute. Does anyone else forget to do that? Then it's like your whole computer is about to go down. Anyway, I think he was really on board with it until he really couldn't get a straight answer from Karen. And then they got together and it was uncomfortable. I'm gonna watch it. Let's take a look at it together.
So again, I'm in the blue bubbles. Did you try those Smirnoff screwdrivers? I stopped at the Hilly for one last night. I said, haha, how did you get my digits? Defendant responded, the Melissa and Lito show. I said, haha, I thought you creeped John's phone. I said, haha, again. Defendant responded, no way. I was the last person in Greater Canton who didn't have your number. I think even Kerry has it. I responded, what, with a bunch of question marks? I said, I just don't give my personal number out to anyone. How would Kerry have my number with a bunch of question mark? And the defendant responded, Melissa had it.
Now, as far as in those communications, the reference the defendant makes to the Melissa and Lito show, do you know what that means?
The two individuals that I also know from the hillside.
And the Kerry person that she refers to, do you know who that is?
I believe that's Kerry Curran, Chris Curran's wife.
Now, if I could direct your attention to page 9. And Ms. Gilman, if I could have page 9. And again, sir, if you could read from page 9 as far as that conversation goes and just indicate whom is speaking at different points.
Okay, so the defendant said, I'd prefer a weed whacker. I responded, that's the thing about nicknames. Defendant said, we were tossing around the idea of a short vacay with the current show, wanted to see if you were game.
Right, and that's something that Karen told Katerina that night in the bar, that she was planning on a vacation with John O'Keefe. This is, I don't know if she made it up or something she was dreaming about. Here she's talking about a vacation again. I mean, John had just kicked her out of the house right around this time. This may be a little before that he did that, but right around about a week before. She ran him over and she refused to leave. They were constantly fighting, according to the kids. And you can hear in this how much she dislikes and resents the children. Really not talked about in the first trial. I hope it's talked about in the second trial a little bit more. Obviously I'm not a lawyer, but if I were giving the opening statement, I would really put in that text messages, one of the last text messages that Karen wrote to John O'Keefe were toxic, meaning the kids, when we're all, the four of us, she says, she writes, are toxic, meaning John O'Keefe's niece and nephew that he was caring for, and Karen and John all together were toxic. And she seemed to resent the attention John O'Keefe had on the kids, because kids need a lot of attention. And Karen Read certainly needed all of John's attention that day, just constantly calling him, constantly text messaging him, not paying attention to, not caring about his boundaries. He's letting these calls go, not answering them, not answering the and she's constantly texting, needs constant engagement because that's what she lives for. She's a psychopath. They have very low levels for boredom. And she needs to be in a constant game of power and control. It's about control. Knowing what he's doing, knowing what he's thinking, gaining control over his life in every second. Must have been freaking awful for John O'Keefe. I can't even imagine getting that many calls and text messages. But here she's trying with Brian Higgins. And, why she did this, was this going to be her next victim? And it's very interesting that his father just died 2 years before this. So it's like, oh, right when he's vulnerable and grieving his father, he almost tears up just like reading the text message about his father. Good victim for Karen Read. Just like she approached John O'Keefe when she knew that his sister had died and he had the kids. I believe she approached him on Facebook. I know she said that John O'Keefe approached her on Facebook, but she is the Facebook maven. And I would think it would be Karen Read saying, hey, blast from the past, not John O'Keefe. That's just my theory on it. I have no proof on that. Just the theory.
I responded, you don't have a say. And I believe I was referring to nicknames. And I said, vacation where? Defendant responded, I know. They need to happen organically. I'm the queen of nicknames. Was just going to rent a beach house in, I believe it was supposed to say Fort Lauderdale. It's abbreviated. Something quick and easy. I said, Defendant responded, I'm the queen of vacays too. Always a good time.
So she's the queen of nicknames and the queen of vacay. So which is interesting to me because nicknames have become such a big thing in this case. Everybody who comments on this case or is involved in this case, from the judge, except Karen Read herself doesn't have too many nicknames, except the Weed Whacker, the nickname she gave herself. So when she approached Brian Higgins, he had driven by and she was using a weed whacker and said, my husband is a police officer or something like that, because she thought he was a stranger. And so she calls herself the weed whacker. And she got his number, really asked around to find his number. So was this someone to make John O'Keefe jealous or just someone to move on to the next? Because, feelings aren't really involved in this. And it's really interesting when you'll hear when they start talking about feelings, it's just so vague. You're in my neighborhood. You're like me, which is so narcissistic. But he asks her, what do you like about me? You're someone from my neighborhood. Oh, okay. That's flattering. You're like me. We're alike. It says, odd. I just think it's something to say for Karen. Something vague and not too revealing, because she's constantly trying to have the upper hand.
Responded, I'm going to Nashville next month, 19 to 21st, for a benefit. One of our guys got shot in the head. You guys should come.
And as far as either one of those trips that you were discussing, do you recall any further discussion or any going on any of those trips?
Well, I mean, I definitely went to Nashville for that benefit for one of my coworkers. It may have been more conversation about the Florida trip, but I can't specifically recall it.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 16, and Ms. Gilman, if I could have that. And this is on that same date of January 13th, is that correct?
I believe so. The date's not at the top here, but I believe it is.
And again, sir, if you could read from that page of communication as far as who was speaking and what was said.
So there's a photograph of somebody with a weed whacker. The defendant said, no, you're not a creep. I said, nope. She said, you're kind of a loner, which I used to be. I responded, no, not really. I have a ton of buddies, but I only let a handful of friends in that I'm tight with. So you think you got me figured out? And then I typed circle of trust in quotes.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next page, number 17.
So kind of a loner. I think she still is. I don't think, look at her friends. None of her friends have attended the trial. what friends have spoken out on her behalf? I think one who spoke out on her behalf was John O'Keefe's ex-girlfriend of 2 weeks. I think she dated John O'Keefe for 2 weeks. She's supporting Karen Read. Makes you really question John O'Keefe's taste in women. But I don't know if that's the best sampling, Karen Read and that woman. But everyone who has spoken out, who has gotten behind Karen Read, is someone from YouTube, someone she's met from outside the courthouse or through Facebook. Where are all her long-term buds coming out and saying Karen Read couldn't do this? It's just her family.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have that. And again, sir, if you could read from page 17 as far as what is said and who is talking.
So the defendant said, yeah, I said loner, not loser. I assume you know a lot of people, PPL, people abbreviated. You never really can figure anyone out completely. Your dad died when you were young, and I responded, he died in March of 2020. I'm so not a loser, you won't figure me out, LOL. Defendant responded, no one is a loser, I just didn't mean loner to imply friendless.
Right. So she's carefully trying to love bomb him. You're hot. I didn't mean loner to mean bad thing here. But she said your dad died when you were very young. No, but he died in 2020, and you can hear him. Oh, well, that'll do. You're properly traumatized. Proper victim for me. For a good power and control, to have power and control over you.
I'm sorry that's recent. It wasn't COVID, was it? I responded, cancer. Defendant responded, I know you date girls who don't lock the house behind them, and you are private and observant. I'm sorry, what kind? I responded, lung, brain, kidney, and pelvis. How do you know all these things, LOL?
If I could turn our attention to the next page, page 18. And again, sir, if you could read from that.
In the blue bubbles is me. I said, you're funny. Defendant responded, yikes, wow, that's rough. Jesus, I'm sorry. We chat a lot at the hillside. I responded, don't be sorry. Life is hard sometimes. I always figure it out. Then I said, who chats, ? Defendant responded, life is hard, but losing people is the hardest. So I'm sorry. We chat. I responded,
losing people is the hardest, especially when I cause the loss. That's the kind of loss that I really like, the kind of loss that I cause. Total destruction to the O'Keefes. And then I like to re-victimize them by calling them out in articles and Vanity Fair and blaming them for thinking that I'm guilty, for having the gall to have the opinion that I might be guilty of this, even though I really am guilty of this. How dare they think that and say that? They never had a problem with me until I started speaking out, until I started gaining my power. Does anybody remember that horrible quote from Karen Read? The O'Keefes never carried a pitchfork for me until I started getting support. You didn't speak to any media. Now you're giving interviews. You really just can't stand my rising from the ashes. It's not that they can't stand that you ended the life of their son. It's that they don't like that you're rising from the ashes and you becoming, how dare they have a problem with your new celebrity status? The only thing that changed is I started to come from a position of power. I've reached the point that, John, if you can hear me, Papa, can you hear me? John, can you hear me? Here's a little acting on Karen's part. John, if you can hear me, I've done everything I can. I don't think your family can be saved. They want to see me incarcerated for the rest of my life, despite never seeing any evidence while you were alive that I mistreated you. We were dating for 2 years, and I have since eclipsed those 2 years. I'm going on 3, and I've got to save myself now. Oh my gosh. It's ridiculous. So she's been fighting these charges longer than she actually dated John O'Keefe. That's what she was saying there. Horrible. This is something that I've noticed that killers really like to do, taunt the family, victim's family. And badmouth them.
That's all you got? We chat? Sure, you're from Brockton, spit it out. Defendant responded, you and I chatted about the girl who kept forgetting to lock the door. I said, oh, she has been out of play like for 3 months now. And then I believe it starts to say out of rotation, question mark.
And then, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 20. And again, sir, if you could read from that.
I'm in the blue bubbles again. I said, I just got a Saturday invite. The defendant said, did you say yes, question mark? I said, not yet, with a bunch of periods, but did respond. Defendant said, what did you say, Mr. Elusive? I responded, no, I just don't want to intrude on your couple's night. Ha ha, I'm shy. The defendant responded, we prefer to hang out with non-couples. Bob Gallery is probably coming too, solo. We'll probably do cards or something at some point. I'm inviting you. And I said, ha ha.
Now, sir, is that the Saturday night that's being referenced there? Is that the same night that you had gone over to the home at some point for the Patriots game?
Yes.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, page 21.
Cards and the Patriots. Cards and the Patriots. They went over for cards. And then she planted a kiss on him. Strategically where the cameras were not.
Yes.
And again, if you could read from that page.
The defendant said, John said Brian's being wishy-washy now, in quotes. I responded, haha, did you tell him you texted me? The defendant responded, no. And then I gave a thumbs up. Then I said, you cranky now, question mark? Defendant said, haha, no, just stop being so anti-couples. Most couples don't even like each other. I said, name a few. Defendant said, name a few? I don't know. All of them. Question mark. They all want to hang out with single people. And then I said,
Thank you. Sir, if I could direct your attention to page 26. And sir, if I could ask you to read from that page.
in blue is going to be myself again. Foul ball. Defendant responded, you stink. I said, you suck and you're double trouble. Defendant responded, you're hot. I responded, are you serious or messing with me? Defendant responded, no, I'm serious. I responded, failing is mutual. Is that bad? How long have you thought that? Defendant responded, are you okay driving? You don't want to stay here. I responded back, I'm fine. I have an office at the PD. You didn't answer the question. And then it starts to say, defendant said, rather you stay here.
And is that, to your memory, when is that text exchange taking place? In reference to the night that you went over to the O'Keefe's house?
I believe it was that night.
Now,
How uncomfortable must that be at the home of John O'Keefe? You're getting these text messages, you're hot, and you're looking at John O'Keefe like walking around the place, his home. You've taken off your shoes for the Patriots game. You're walking around and she's sending you these text messages. You must feel like a traitor. John was his friend.
Mr. O'Keefe's house on that particular evening, do you recall?
I mean, they were friendly, but still, I mean, how uncomfortable.
How you came into the house?
I believe it might have been the front door.
And if you know about how long were you?
I take it back. He does give her one nickname, the defendant. That's her nickname. I like to call her the killer, psychopath. Those are my nicknames, my pet nicknames.
At Mr. O'Keefe's house that night.
I was probably one of the last people to leave, I think.
And what, if anything, happened as you were exiting from Mr. O'Keefe's house that night?
So as I was exiting the house, it was either through the breezeway or the garage. And as we were walking out, the defendant planted a kiss on me.
Now, before you went out that way, where was Mr. O'Keefe? Did you say goodbye to him or anything like that?
I think I said goodbye to him. He might have been in the bathroom. I'm not 100% positive where he was.
And when you went to leave, which exit from the house were you headed to initially?
Well, as I said, I don't remember exactly if it was the breezeway or the garage I was starting to walk through, but whichever way I started to exit, the defendant told me to go a different way.
And which way did the defendant tell you to go?
Well, her way. I honestly can't tell you which door that was. If it was either the breezeway or the garage.
And as you were going out, again, I'm sorry, what happened?
The defendant kissed me.
And how did she kiss you?
Not like a friend.
Lip to lip, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Like a romantic kiss?
That's the way I interpreted it.
And were you still inside the house at the time that this occurred, or were you outside the house, if you know?
Not sure if we had just got to the outside or not. It might have, I'm not sure if it was close proximity to leaving.
And what was your reaction to that?
I was taken back.
Was that something that you were expecting?
No.
And about how long was it between when the defendant kissed you and when you left?
Well, almost immediately.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention back to the exhibit before you on page number 27.
Yes.
Again, sir, if you could read from that page and who's speaking.
So I'm in the blue bubbles, and I said, I think you're messing with me. The defendant said, why do you think that? I responded, because this is so out of left field. Where did these feelings come from? Defendant responded, I just think you're like me. I said, meaning, ? Defendant said, do you have your own kids? I said, I have no kids. How am I like you? ? Hello? And defendant responded, aren't we alike? I responded, I think so. So why did you get my number and reach out to me? And I think the defendant put a ? on that bubble, I believe. Or I might have, I don't know.
Now, that conversation as far as you asking her about why she reached out to you, how often was that question asked by you through the course of these text communications?
Well, the extent of the actual communication via text between the defendant and I was between January 12th and January 29th when John passed. On the 28th and 29th, the 28th, I sent a text, as we spoke about before when we were at the waterfall, That text didn't respond. There was a text sent by the defendant to me the next day. So in that time period between the 12th and the 29th, there was 9 days that the defendant and I exchanged text messages. With that being said, those text messages, I don't believe were every day, consecutive days. There was 9 days in between the 12th and the 29th.
And so as far as that questioning, as far as posing to her, why did she reach out to you? Was that something that you asked once or more than once?
Yeah, I asked it more than once, and during the pendency of this communication, I was basically trying to suss out what the intentions were of the defendant. Was the defendant interested in me? Was she at the end of her relationship with John? Was she trying to weaponize me against John and put me in the middle? There was numerous things that were going on, and that's what I was trying to vet out or suss out, or whatever you want to call it. But I was having a hard time accepting what was happening.
And sir, if I could direct you to the next page, page 28. And again, sir, if you could read from that page.
So I'm in the blue bubbles. Shoot straight with me. Defendant responded, I told you, I just think we're alike, right? Couple question marks.
Right. Doesn't that work? Aren't you going to buy that? Won't you just jump into the sack with me? Won't you just jump into some kind of interaction with me where I can be the center of your attention right away? Do you have to ask so many questions? Can't you just ignore? Can't you just get into this right away and just do the back and forth with me forever so I can say you started it and you initiated it, and I won't have to be responsible for initiating this, and I can turn the tables on you later? That's how I hear it. I don't want to be responsible for my feelings. By the way, just wait, hold on. Let me remove this for a hot minute. Just out now. New merch. Who doesn't want their Karen Read is Guilty t-shirt for the holidays? Who doesn't want that? Or, kind of my favorite, I'm a no innocence fraud broad cropped hoodie. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? But who's if it's not on your Christmas list, it should. All in. I just made just a little new merch. I think there's some more Karen Read stuff in here. Karen Read is Guilty stuff. I think you can, you can also get Karen Read is Guilty long sleeve, kind of hard to see, but with my logo on the back. All right. Been meaning, I did that so long ago. I've just been meaning to share that. I'm seriously the worst marketer. It was fun making those.
I responded, yes, agree. Now what? Defendant responded, I don't know. I said, shouldn't you know? Defendant responded, do you like me? I said, yes, from jump. Defendant said, when was jump? I said, first time I saw you. Defendant responded, when was that? I said, Hillside for your shore.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 29. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
So again, I'm in the blue bubbles. Hillside for sure. When were you interested? Defendant responded, I don't know, you're just my type. I responded, you think you can handle me? I thought you were happy, question mark. Defendant responded, how do you know if I'm happy? I said, I just assumed. Defendant responded, are you hard to handle? I may have put a question mark. Then I said, what do you like about me? Defendant responded, I just feel like you're from my neighborhood. I said, yes, yeah, ditto. Defendant responded, and I think you're hot.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, page 30. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
I'm in the blue bubbles again. You really think that? I have always thought that about you. Defendant responded, what? I responded that you're hot, smart, witty, but I didn't think you were interested. Defendant responded, witty? I responded, yeah, meaning quick with a response. Tell me why you got my number and reached out to me. Defendant responded, just thought we were the same / from the same neighborhood. I responded, are you afraid to say what's on your mind?
Right. He's like, you've said that before. Like, really, why did you reach out to me? Where's this going? What is this about? He's like giving her the third degree, and she's not up for this. She's like, I thought you were supposed to be a chump, an easy conquest. This is not going the way I thought it was going to go.
What's in your mind? And then I said, on. Defendant responded, no, didn't I? No, didn't I? Question mark.
And sir, if I could turn your attention, to the next page, 31, and ask you to read from that.
I'm glad I'm in the blue bubble again. I'm glad I stopped by. I should have come earlier. Do you really live in Mansfield? Defendant responded, yeah. I was basically begging you. I responded, you don't have to beg me. I meant to say beg. Defendant responded, huh? I said, I will give you what you want. How are you texting right now? Then I said, leaving me hanging. Defendant responded, no. I typed kids and then kinda. Defendant responded, how am I texting? And I began to say, is everyone asleep?
As far as the communication from the defendant indicating, yeah, I was basically begging you, what did you take that to mean?
That she wanted me to come over?
And if I could turn your attention to the next page, 32. If I could ask you to read from that page as well.
So it starts off with the defendant saying, I just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. I said, I should have stayed, LOL. So now what? Question mark. Defendant said, yes, you should have. I responded, that would have been distracting. So now what? So no, what? And then I said, now. Defendant said, now what? Question mark. I responded, balls in your court. Defendant said, what do you want? I responded, loaded question. What do you want? Question mark. Defendant responded, I asked you, exclamation point. I in turn said, nope, you initiated this.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 33. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, spit it out. I'm in the blue bubbles. Defendant said, hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. I responded, don't you have a boyfriend? Question mark. Defendant responded, where are you? Question mark. I said, Canton.
Canton. Yeah, he's in Canton. This is there's going to be a lot of talk about her possibly moving to Canton. I guess, is Mansfield that far away? I thought it was like a 45, 50-minute drive.
Defendant said, where? Question mark. I responded, my office is at the PD. Why? Are you going to Mansfield? Question mark. Defendant responded, where is that? I said, Canton PD. Defendant said, I have a house there from before I reconnected W. John. I responded, oh, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 34, and ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant starts off and says, do you like me? Question mark. I responded,
I'm sorry, it's a 23 minute. I thought I was wrong about that. 23-minute trip. from Mansfield to Canton. So what does it really matter? She's in Canton or not? I never really got why he's like, are you going to move to Canton? Are you going to move to Canton? Does that mean just move out of John's home? I'm not sure, but you'll hear later. He keeps asking her.
Yes, clearly. Defendant said, come over my house. I responded, when? Question mark. Defendant said, when works for you? I said, whoever, and then whenever, when works for you? Question mark. The defendant said, I asked you first. I responded, I think you're messing with me. Defendant said, I'm glad you came over tonight, with some type of face. I responded, me too, ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You looked great tonight.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 35, and the last, or second to last blue bubble down the bottom, starting with Are You Glad? Do you see that?
Like, essentially, he's asking her to say, I want to leave John and start a relationship with you. That's what he's looking for. And she's not giving it to him. So he's like, well, I'm not really into being the side piece. I'm not into being the weaponized piece to make John O'Keefe jealous. No thanks. So what am I? And Karen's just frustrated because she just wants a Mark who's not going to ask any questions. She can manipulate the meaning of all this text messages later and gaslight him.
Page 35?
Yes.
And where is it again?
Second to last blue bubble, starting with Are You Glad?
Yes. I said, I'm in the blue bubble. I said, are you glad you walked me out? Question mark.
Yeah, Bossy Texas Strict. Hey, nice to see you, by the way. I think they are messing with us. What adults talk like this? Exactly. That's what I kept thinking, that this is really juvenile. I kept thinking back to, did I ever have any situations like this? And I thought maybe when I was a teenager to young adult, it's very juvenile.
And what did she respond?
Defendant said, yes, with like semicolon in some type of a mark there. Are you? Question mark. And I said DEF for definitely.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 36. And if you could, please read from that.
So at the top, I'm in the blue bubbles. It says yes. And then I said, are you going home tonight or tomorrow AM? Defendant texted, we kissed, comma, right? Question mark. So then I put a question mark on her question and said, is this a trick question? Defendant said, I don't know when I'm going home. I'm selling my house, with what I think is a smiley face. What a trick question, and a couple of question marks. I responded, are you moving to Canton? I'm following your lead with this. Defendant responded, I live here, but I have property in Mfield. I'm guessing it's Medfield. Defendant said, why my lead? I don't want any responsibility. I responded, you started this, right? Question mark. Why did you get my number? And it says each out to me. It meant to say reach out to me. I then said, still have not told me.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next page, 37, and ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, sorry, should I not have? I responded, I'm fine with it. Just don't know why you can't answer. Defendant said, you're mad at me? I said, OMG, no, not at all. You're being silly. Defendant said, I told you, exclamation point. I just think you're like me and I'm attracted to you. And then she said, a lot. I responded, feeling is mutual. I just never saw this coming. Defendant said, why? Question mark. I responded, because I just assumed you were happy with your situation. Defendant responded, I was, but things have deteriorated.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 38, and ask you to read from that, sir.
Right, which is interesting because why were Karen Read's parents so determined to present John O'Keefe and Karen Read's relationship as wonderful at the time that of John, I don't know what you want to call it, the incident that ended John O'Keefe's life, the Erder, I don't know. What do you want to call it? Why are they so determined to make it look like things were going great? Because they obviously, things had deteriorated. There you go. In Karen's own mouth, out of her own mouth, things have deteriorated. You can look at her body language where John O'Keefe has his arm around her and her arms are just straight to the side at night.
I said, why? Question mark. How so? Question mark. What did Melissa say when you asked for my number? Question mark. Defendant responded, it is very, very complicated. He and I dated when we were kids, and then his sister died and everything got up. I responded, he seems very into you. Defendant responded, I just told Melissa that I had your number but lost it. I said, that's cute. She wasn't suspicious? Question mark. Defendant responded, no, she's great. I responded, does she?
So they dated. That's something you never hear about, right? You never hear about their prior dating as kids. You only hear that they met at a party. Was it a one-night stand? What was it? How long did they date? And why did they break up the first time? If they did date, if this story is true, who knows? You never hear about this. You only hear about Karen Read meeting John O'Keefe at John O'Keefe's sister's party, at a party that the sister was at, right? Wasn't it her party? I thought so. She was brought along. And she chooses to not say anything after John O'Keefe's sister dies, say anything, but reaches out just in time when he has the kids and is going to be fully traumatized and overwhelmed. Perfect victim.
She know you like me? Question mark. Defendant responded, she's a sweetie. We just agreed you are great, with another smiley type face.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 40 and ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, yeah, but where is that? I have had all my here for a couple of years and my house has been vacant, but I'd like to get closer to the water. I responded, are you breaking up or staying together? Defendant responded, I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I'm very close to his niece. It is a very up situation. I responded,
she's very close to the niece. Not at all. She hates these kids. She hates kids, she'll go on to say, and she resents these kids. She calls the four of them, meaning John O'Keefe, Karen, and the two children, Kaylee and Patrick, as toxic. They make things toxic. It's not Karen who makes things toxic. It's the kids who make things toxic. But she's very close with Kaylee. Kaylee her testimony was quite different. That Karen Read gave John O'Keefe the silent treatment, gave them the silent treatment. It was like walking on eggshells. She got mad for no reason. They fought about things that people don't normally fight about.
when was that and how did you find out he hooked up? Question mark. I don't want to complicate your situation. Defendant responded, we went away for New Year's, the four of us. I put the kids to bed and found him in the lobby of our hotel all over one of our friends. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I responded, it does matter.
Now, as far as that indication that she made to you, is it through text communications or in person? Did she indicate at any point in time where that occurred?
So there was an occasion that the defendant stopped at my house. And again, the conversation that took place at my house was in relation to, again, sussing out and trying to figure out if this was What, everything that I stated before, like, was this legitimate? Was she seriously interested in me? Was she at the end of her relationship with John? And during that, there was touch on that topic, and I became to realize, it was my understanding at that point that this incident took place in Aruba on New Year's Eve, based off the text messages and the conversation at my residence.
This was something that she brought up, not only in the text communications with you, but in person in communication with you as well.
Yes, I mean, outside of being over there for the game, there was only one time that the defendant and I ever interacted on a one-on-one basis.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 41, and ask.
Right. So this is a little embarrassing for him to read this stuff. He's saying exactly, I think, what he means, which is, I was trying to figure out what she meant. What is this? Was this a practical joke? Am I going to be weaponized? What does she want? Is this serious? And Karen Read's evasive and seemed like playing games. So he was totally on board for it if it was going to go down the way he wanted. But I think he starts to figure her out later. So we'll get into that a little bit. She starts to show her personality a little bit, and he starts to call her on it near the end. I'm going to get into your comments. Just we're right here in the middle. It's a good place to have a little break.
We got you coming. You had something to say. You were insightful. Oh, so clever. So Roberta's going to read your comments. Hey, Roberta, read those comments.
First one, Cindy, 7427. Do you really have any doubt that not being Higgins calling in? So this is something that has been going around the Karen Read, for everybody who talks about Karen Read community. Let me just share my screen briefly. I'll show you guys. Oh, actually, let me pull this down for a second and I'll pull it back up. Hold on one second. Hold on. Here we go. My apologies that this is taking so long. I just had to find exactly what I'm looking for. This was on the JFK show.
Listen, I appreciate the things that you two do, you and James, right? But let me ask you something. Those two dudes that you're accusing, right? They're decorated dudes. What happens? Like, can you look at this from both sides? And this comes out that she actually did it. Are you ready to, like, listen, I appreciate the things that you two do, you and James, right?
So is that Higgins calling in? These are decorated dudes calling himself, if that is Higgins, a decorated dude. To me, it just sounded a little bit different than Higgins. Skip Tracer says that Microdots AI said it was 96% sure. I don't know. To my ear, it doesn't sound like him. How I heard it. Other people say I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not infallible, certainly. Just to my ear, it sounded a little different. Do you have any doubt that not being Higgins calling in? And do you really think he was so smart and sussed Karen out? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Not as much as I don't think it's quickly. I don't think it happened quickly, but eventually I think he did. In my opinion, he's a very sad man when it comes to women. That may be true. I can't disagree with you there. I certainly already had divorced, single, careful not to get humiliated once again, but meanwhile, very eager. Yes, very careful. That's my analysis on Higgins. I think you're right, Cindy. I think we're in agreement. And Dr. Russell is not a narcissist. Really? Really? Come on. Really? That's how I very narcissistic. I don't think I called her a narcissist. I said her narcissism. Certainly she has a lot of narcissism. We should stop calling everyone out as a psychopath or a narcissist like it's nothing. Do those terms get devalued that way? Well, that's how I took her, Cindy. I didn't see it so much the first time round. I just saw her as a attention seeker, but she gets very angry when you challenge her on the stand. That's how I saw it, and full of herself. Jane Kreisman says, your mod maestro is psychic. I asked him for the lyrics to your brilliant and hilarious song, I Hit My Boyfriend With My Car, and he simply wrote, the legal system I clown. People do have trouble with that lyric, understanding that lyric. How did Maestro know that was the exact phrase I needed? Stellar team all around. Thank you. Thank you, Maestro, for moderating. I think when she says thousands of dog bites, we were talking about Dr. Russell, she's counting all the teeth. Good point. Good point, Jane. Barbara K says, great show, Roberta. Thanks. Had to laugh. So in my past career, I worked for a company whose focus was in human resources, where we interviewed tons of candidates for various positions for our clients. The one thing in our interviews that scored a 0 on a question was when the candidate couldn't give specific instances or examples when asked. They would often reply, oh, I've done that so many times, I can't even think of a specific. This is what this dog bite expert, quote unquote, did over and over again when asked to cite some sort of the writing, the lectures, seminars, etc., or a specific memory. I thought that was the best question Brennan asked. Give me a specific memory when someone couldn't tell you it was a dog bite and you figured it out. I thought that was like brilliant question. I think that was something Alessi told her to say and wrote in her report. And there was no times when someone couldn't tell her it was a dog bite. All I could think of was 0. She gets a 0. LOL. By the way, I'm a cat expert too. You too, Barbara K? I'm now a self-appointed expert on cats. I can answer your cat questions for $600 an hour and testify for my hours of hands-on kitty experience, petting cats, taking care of cats, living with cats. Way more valuable than a vet or someone with a degree in zoology. Okay, back to Higgins. Thanks for your comments. I always get so much out of them.
So I'm in the blue bubbles and I said, did they bang? Question mark. The defendant responded, does that matter? Question mark. I said, sorry, I was just asking. I was just trying to figure it out. Defendant responded, it doesn't really matter. I said, okay, I won't ask again. Defendant said, I don't care, with a smiley face. It doesn't matter. I said, I responded back, okay, hear you loud and clear, Karen. Defendant responded, okay. I responded, why are you getting your thing all twisted up over simple questions? And then I typed thong. Defendant responded, I'm not. I am, question mark. I responded, you're kind of getting defensive. Defendant responded, not at all, with an exclamation point.
Okay. Karen Read is getting defensive. He's calling her out. This is where I say he sussed her out a little bit. You could see she was getting a little defensive. Why are you getting all twisted over a simple question? I'm not, am I? Can't you just make this easy, Higgins? I'm not out here to answer 20 questions.
Thank you, sir. If I could direct your attention to page 46. Ask you to read from that.
Defendant is in gray. She said, "We did kiss earlier, comma, no," with an exclamation point. I responded in blue bubble, "I think you initiated that, no, question mark." Defendant said, "Yup. Do I owe you an apology, question mark." I said, "OMG, no. Why are you being sensitive?" Defendant responded, "I'm not." I responded, "Kinda." There's a P and a FFT, never, responded by the defendant. "What do you want from me, question mark?" I responded, "What's on the table, question mark?" Defendant said, "What do you want ideally, question mark?" I responded, "The real deal." Defendant responded, "It doesn't exist."
Wow, that's hopeful. The real deal doesn't exist. No one's, I mean, very much Karen Read's experience. Love doesn't exist. Real loving relationship doesn't exist. Certainly not with Karen, who's incapable of it, in my opinion. Does anybody remember when she was asked coming from court, "Did you love John?" No. No, she says. Meaning, no, I didn't love him. We were dating. We were doing something else. He was merely ship in the night for 2 years, but he made me so angry that I had to eliminate him off the face of the earth. And now I'm the only one who gets to talk. Now I tell the story. And that's why it's so frustrating that the entire Karen Read story has really been the Gretchen Voss story told by Karen Read, as told to, right? Karen Read's story as told to Gretchen Voss. Anything that strays out of that, that's actually in the court records, doesn't really get talked about. Everybody who talks about this case, aside for, a few people, talk about it from the Gretchen Vosses. Everything that's in, everything that's important is in that Gretchen Voss article. I really hope we get to hear about, the plumber, her plumber, and her plumbing issues, which is the last text messages that she texted John that night were about her plumbing issues and her hot water problems and her rusted pipe. And Richie, the plumber, was going to Home Depot to fix it. In the evening hours of Friday. I mean, it's such an odd time to have a plumber over on a Friday night. I don't think I've ever had a plumber over at 7:30 on a Friday night. When John O'Keefe's father was a plumber and he would have gladly done it for free, said he would, said leave it. He said Papa would have done it for free, right? His dad. That had to be an issue of contention between them.
Thank you, sir. If I could direct your attention to page 57, sir.
Yeah, I think she did too, Kimmy K. But I think it's important if she made up something like that. I think that's something that they would have fought over. How are you getting on with your hot water issues? That's delaying her from getting to the bar that night. That's the first thing John would have asked. How did you get on with your hot water issues? I wonder if John O'Keefe knew what a liar she was. Had to, right? 2 years of dating her.
And ask you to read from that.
It starts off in blue. I said, I can go to any base, but usually Hanscom and Bedford are down to the Cape. Defendant responded, which base down the Cape? Which branch? I said, Army. Defendant said, I'm not abnormally sensitive. I responded, Joint Base Cape Cod. Oh, I won't be so hard on you.
Melissa wants to know, why was her taillight only cracked? It wasn't cracked. Karen says it was cracked. That's her words, not mine. At 5:08, it wasn't. It was severely damaged. The ring light photo puts in the red in it, but you can see it's damaged. Very damaged. Blown out. Wasn't cracked. Never get me to say it was cracked.
You, defendant responded, OMG, you're not. You called me trouble. That makes me sound bad. I responded, I was just playing with you. Defendant responded, you weren't, but that's okay. I responded, stop being sensitive, please. Defendant responded, I'm not.
Now, sir, in reference, in that page of text communications, you made reference to a base down the Cape, is that right?
Yes.
And where is that in relation to where you live in Barnstable County?
So I can utilize one of the gates to get onto the base. I can get fuel. I can shop. I then can hit the Bourne Bridge, and I would use that as a cut through at the time when I was splitting my time between two different properties.
I have a question for Melissa. When are they gonna, if the car is already on the way to the Sally port before the CERT team arrives, when do they have the time to plant the pieces? Deep in the snow that they won't find till later. They're planting some so far under the snow that they won't find some till days later. Where are they? When are they going to have time? There was no time to plant the pieces of taillight. So tell me how it happened from beginning to end in a way that makes sense.
Is
there also like a duty-free shop there?
There is, yes.
And at some point throughout the course of the text communications, did you offer to pick something up for the defendant from that shop?
I believe so.
If I could direct your attention to page 60. And ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, I don't know, question mark. It's an old colonial. It has a lot of bedrooms, with kind of an emoji. I responded, more than you clearly need. Are you moving to Canton, question mark. Defendant said, I know, seriously. Some rooms I only go into dust. Not anytime soon. I'm there most of the time, but sometimes it's a lot. I responded, a lot, why, question mark. Defendant respond. I then said, do you even know what you want, question mark, or who, question mark. Defendant responded, because I went from being solo to trying to give attention to kids who aren't mine, and I never wanted kids. I responded, I thought you were happy.
Did you hear that? Did everybody hear that? I'm sick of these kids. They're not mine. She calls them spoiled. Let's just hear that again, shall we? I hope I didn't go back too far.
And ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, I don't know, question mark. It's an old colonial. It has a lot of bedrooms, with kind of an emoji. I responded, more than you clearly need. Are you moving to Canton, question mark. Defendant said, I know, seriously. Some rooms I only go into dust. Not anytime soon. I'm there most of the time, but sometimes it's a lot. I responded, a lot, why, question mark. Defendant respond. I then said, do you even know what you want, question mark, or who, question mark. Defendant responded, because I went from being solo to trying to give attention to kids who aren't mine, and I never wanted kids. I responded, I thought.
Right. I don't want these kids. These kids are making it toxic. It's not me making it toxic. It's the kids making it toxic. I don't want them. I don't want them near me. And the kids felt that. There's no love lost between the kids and Karen and the kids.
You were happy in this. I thought you were in this happy relationship. Defendant responded, everyone is happy at the hillside.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 61, and ask you to read from that.
So it starts off with the defendant. It said, everyone is happy at the hillside, exclamation point. I responded, oh God, you avoid things. Defendant responded, it's just very, very complicated, dynamic with the four of us. He isn't cut out for what he's doing, and the kids present constant issues. I responded, I think he believes he is doing the right thing. Defendant responded, well, of course he is, but his heart isn't in it. It's only because he was very, very close to his sister. I responded back, I know how you feel, kinda. I was married, and when I met her, she had a 2.5 year.
His heart isn't in it, meaning he's already moving away from this, which I think eventually that night he said it's over. He'd already tried to kick her out week before, and she said no. This was the end. And Karen Read's last communication was to drive 24 miles an hour in reverse with her foot 75% down on the gas pedal, with her infotainment system beeping at her, flashing at her. She could not have ignored that beeping and flashing. That's her car. I don't buy that she was all that drunk. I think she was a habitual drinker. I don't think the alcohol touched the sides. This was the last communication to John, to clip him and leave him. And then her last communication was, I hate you. Calling him incessantly. I hate you. That was, and everything about the Free Karen Read movement that she's led is out of hatred for John and his family. To re-victimize them, punish them, make things difficult, and get out of taking responsibility for it. But she has attention because she's proud of what she did. It's the ultimate sign of her power. She removed him from the planet, and she gets to tell the story. And John no longer matters as far as she's concerned. The only person that matters is Karen Read. And that's what the movement's all about. Free Karen Read. And Karen Read's suffering, and she's the victim now, not John O'Keefe.
Year-old. I went from being single to being a dad. It's hard. Then I said, I'm divorced since 2017 and have no kids.
If I could ask you to turn to the next page, 62, and ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, I'm divorced since 2017 and I have no kids. Defendant responded, I try very hard, but they are very spoiled and they're not my family. My parents keep telling me I'd feel differently if they were mine or my own sisters. Then I told you he got drunk and sloppy on NYE while we were away, and that has really affected me. I responded, what did he exactly do, question mark. Defendant responded, I never got married, and now somehow I'm arguing someone about raising kids with an emoji. I responded, why don't you tell me, question mark. Defendant responded, he was a puddle all day and then disappeared. Then I found him all over our friend's sister in the lobby of our hotel, and she's gross, which I think may actually be worse, not sure. I responded, oh.
Right, this is Karen Read's tall tale. That John cheated on her Everyone else says it was a hug. Is that the real story? I don't know. I would think so. But it certainly gives Karen Read permission to go cheat on John now if she says he cheated on her first.
God, did they bang?
And ask you to turn to the next page.
This is really interesting that he keeps saying, did they bang? Did they bang? And Karen Read keeps ignoring it because she has no evidence of that. They hugged, and that was what drove her crazy on that trip to Aruba. She erupted into a temper tantrum.
Sarah, page 63, if you could read from that.
I'm in the blue. I said, did they bang? Question mark. Defendant said, so I was the kids celebrating New Year's. I think it's without him, which shouldn't be my role. No, I doubt it. He was a mess. I said, was it the first time with her, or do you think there were others? Defendant responded, I don't really think there were others. I'm with him all the time. He never seems to want to go anywhere, without me. But honestly, the issues with the kids bother me more than him actually cheating. They are constant, and it feels like a lose-lose. I responded, you clearly have a lot of feelings swirling inside you. Defendant responded, yeah, it's very complicated. Sorry for the rant. I responded, or began to respond, you can vent, babe.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 64, ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, basically, I just feel like I spread myself too thin, and sometimes it's thankless. I responded, Defendant responded, you probably felt that way too. I responded, I did at times. It was one, not two, thankfully. Defendant responded, want to grab a drink, question mark. I responded, if you gave me some notice, I could have. Defendant responded, you in capital letters said you were adaptable. I responded, I am, but I have my work truck with me and not my...
Right. See, he's supposed to be easy and adaptable and pliable and easy to manipulate. This is who she's found as her mark. And you're supposed to, I'm the good looking one. You're supposed to call when I call. I call the shots. I ask the questions. Why are you questioning me? That's what this whole thing is really about.
Personal. Do you get angry when you don't get your way? Defendant responded, that sounds like an excuse. I rarely get my way.
Now it's...
She rarely gets her way. Who thinks that's true? Not me. Do you get angry when you don't get your way? See, bingo. This is where I say he's on to her. Do you get angry when you don't get your way? You seem like you're getting angry when you don't get your way. Is that the type of person you are? I'm going to take a quick break, get a glass of water. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in 1 minute.
We don't take a break. Grab a snack or maybe a glass of wine. Roberta will be back in no time. This podcast is listener supported, so smash that like button and subscribe or become a patron for exclusive content if you are so inclined. Have something to say? Shoot Roberta a super chat. She will do her best to read it on air without delay. Now Roberta's back and ready to put the true back in true crime. Here's Roberta.
Okay. Hope everybody's gotten their glass of whatever, glass of water, glass of tea, cup of tea, bottle of beer, whatever. And now we're going back to Higgins.
As her invitation, is that something that occurred on one time or more than one time?
I believe it was more than one time.
And at any point in time, other than the two you've already recounted, as far as going over to Mr. O'Keefe's house for the football game, or the defendant stopping by your apartment in West Roxbury, were there any other occasions you went out over the defendant's house or out with the defendant by yourself?
No, never.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 74. Ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, "Are you single?" ? I responded, "Yes." Defendant said, "I don't think it's out of left field. Wasn't I already begging you to come over last Saturday? ? I responded, "You getting my number from Melissa and reaching out to me? ? Defendant said, "And on vacay and probably a few other occasions." I responded, it should say, "You didn't really beg." Defendant said, "I asked at least twice. How do people usually reach out to each other? ? I responded, "Why would I have thought you had any interest in me? ? Usually do it when they do live with, usually do it when they do live with someone." And then I said, "Do not do it." Defendant responded, "Maybe, maybe not."
Thank you, sir. If I could direct you to page 77 and ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, "I could go on, but I do not want to pump," it should say, "your up too much." Defendant responded, "Thanks for saying that, but low comps at the hillside." I responded, "You know how to ruin something nice. I frequent other places." The defendant responded, "John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out on Saturday, and my voice and my accent are killing me softly," with an emoji of somebody throwing up. I responded, "What?" Defendant responded, "Yeah, he has cameras everywhere, you cops," with another emoji. I responded, "Jesus." Defendant said, "He's like Christ. Are you guys hooking up? ? And I said, "OMG, great."
If I could.
So John is picking up on the body language between Higgins and Karen. Do you think this is true, or do you think Karen was just throwing in a little drama into the situation? Hard to know with Karen Read. But if it's true, could be add to some of the tension between Karen and John.
Turn your attention to the next page, 78, sir.
I responded, "I don't need drama, dude." Defendant said, "No, it's fine." I responded, "Seriously?" Defendant said, "I'm serious," with an exclamation point. I said, "You legit planted one on me." Defendant responded, "I know where the cameras are anyway, duh." And then it was OMG Bruins with an emoji after that. I responded, "So your slick move isn't on there?" with some question marks. Defendant responded, "Course not." I responded, "Oh my God." And then I said, "I almost," an emoji with somebody throwing up. Defendant responded, "It was a peck anyway. I kissed Kerry and gay Jeff too." I responded, "Yeah, weak. I agree."
Now, as far as cameras at Mr. O'Keefe's house, is that something that you were aware was there prior to that conversation?
Right. So now Karen's taking her kiss back. She kisses Carrie and gay John too. It was nothing. She's minimizing it. Says it certainly wasn't a kiss like you give a family member. He said it was, she planted one on him. Hard to know how serious that kiss was, but now Karen's demoting it. But very much like how Karen got rid of the footage of her showing Carrie and Jen her taillight. She knows what kind of evidence to make and leave, very much thinking like a criminal. Do the kiss. We're out of the reach of the cameras.
With the defendant.
No, not that I recall.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 79. Can I ask you to read from that, sir?
Defendant said, LOL, funny. I responded, so now he is jealous of me, question mark. Defendant said, no, with an exclamation. I told you, he likes you a lot. I said, which makes this worse, question mark. Defendant said, you said or did something at the bar last week, and he goes, I like Brian more and more. I responded, I think he's a good dude too. Defendant responded, yeah, he is. I responded, funny. What's your end game? What do you want from me? You will just confuse it should say out of yourself, because I'm a lot of fun.
Now, sir, the he that you're referring to in those text communications, who was that, just for clarity?
John O'Keefe.
And if I could direct your attention to page 84. And ask you to read from that page, sir.
I said, it was fun. Defendant said, I've complimented you today too, with a couple of exclamation points and then some type of emoji. I said, and kicked my nuts in. Defendant said, OMG, how? I responded, if I had more notice, I would have grabbed a drink somewhere, so I'm all set with, that's, and then I said, in quotations, that's fine, but I am not asking again. Defendant said, well, it was 7 p.m. and I'm super cool, so right now I'm asking again with some type of I think it's a smiley face. I responded, coming to your house would have been bad for the both of us. For starters, you wouldn't have wanted me to leave. The defendant responded, now equals not. That sounds good. I responded, that's trouble. Defendant said, why, question mark.
And if I could direct your attention to page 90. Ask you to read from that, sir.
9-0?
90, yes.
The defendant said, no, I'm busting your chops, it's okay. I responded, no, you are sensitive, nice try. You don't think if I came over for a drink, we would have gotten carried away. Defendant said, you in capital letters said you were adaptable and tons of fun. I took that as an invite for an invite. And I responded, oh, okay. Defendant responded, I'm 42. I know what happens when you invite someone over for a drink. I responded, you're the master of avoidance, so you think I would just give it up. Defendant responded, I've been a lot in my life. I have a little bit of cop DM mindset, and then said, been through.
And if I could direct you to the next page, 91, sir.
Defendant said, what am I avoiding, question mark. I'm not afraid to be direct. I responded, some of my questions. Defendant responded, okay, which? Ask again. I said, nope, tricks are for kids. Defendant responded, I'm pretty sure we would have hooked up. I responded, okay. Defendant said, I can't say that, question mark. I said, of course you can. Defendant said, did I miss any other questions, sir, question mark. Probably, are you having a drink right now, question mark. Defendant said, yeah, on my second. I said, show me what you got.
And if I could direct your
Thank you, Dean Walker, for the super sticker. Nice to see you.
attention to page 99. And ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, none of that is true, exclamation point. I'm not talking to other guys, and I have issues with John, and things are far from perfect. You just happen to know about him, BC, I guess, because we all hang out at the same bar. I'm sure you talk to other girls. That's what single people do. I'm not married, neither are you, neither is John. I responded, was that your attempt at a lecture or deductive reasoning, question mark? What do you want from me, question mark? Defendant said, that's just how I think / feel. You don't need to approve. I've already answered that last question a couple of times, I think. I responded, I'm not judging you, never have, never will. Defendant responded, you shouldn't. I don't know what your private life is about, nor is it my business.
Right. He's like, I don't even understand what your private life is about. But I think he was all in on this. And now I think he's getting wary. Pat Brooks, thanks so much for the generous super chat. Very generous. Hi, Roberta. I always appreciate your analysis on cases. I'm totally with you. In my opinion, I have no doubt in my mind that she hit John. Only keep praying for justice for John and his family. Me too. Awesome channel. Awesome mods. Yeah. It's like mod, really, right now. Thank you, Maestro. Awesome community. So glad. So glad, Pat Brooks. Thanks so much. Anyone else think he's getting wary of this, all this back and forth?
Thank you, sir. If I can now direct you to page 102 and ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, my only, I'm assuming, point is that there's a difference between being married to someone and dating them, and we have no intention of ever getting married. The point of dating is not to get tied down. If you're not confident, you should be, in my mind anyway. The first two, but I don't care too much about the other girl. I responded, okay, so he is cool with you dating other people, question mark. Defendant responded, and I'm not happy per se, just realistic that there's cracks and it's far from perfect. I doubt it. If he's seeing someone else, I wouldn't want to know either way. He probably feels the same way, and you probably feel that way about whoever you hook up with. I think that's normal. I responded, okay. Defendant said, you don't agree with me, question mark, question mark.
If I could direct your attention to page 107.
Defendant said, at a bar, question mark. I responded, I wasn't suggesting anytime soon. I know you're with your friend. I meant my house. Probably after 8. Defendant said, probably after 8. I responded, okay, if you don't wanna, that's fine, no pressure. Defendant responded, I will a drink. It looks like I tabbed the bubble with a question mark. I then said, what do you drink? Question mark. Are you out now? Question mark. Defendant responded, sorry, I'll drink whiskey if that's what you're having. I responded, haha, send me a pic of you two.
Now, you had testified earlier about some occasion prior to the 28th when the defendant had come over your house in West Roxbury, correct?
Yes.
In this page that you just read, as well as some of the successive pages after that, is that sort of arranging for that to occur after she goes out or leaves from a friend out in Boston?
I believe she was out with a friend that night in Boston, a female friend, yes.
And that evening when she came over your house, about how long was she there?
Not long.
And so what happened when she arrived, or what, if anything, did the two of you talk about?
It was kind of more of this. It was a kind of a, wasn't an interrogation, it was a face-to-face version of trying to suss out and vet, like, what is this all about? Again, I mean, you know, I'm not proud of these text messages. It is what it is. I'll take responsibility for them. But, John was a friend at the same time, and I certainly wasn't. If they were at the end of the relationship, they were at the end of their relationship, but I wasn't going to have somebody utilize me and weaponize me against somebody that I liked. And it was just a weird experience. It was
Right. This is why I say he sussed her out. It was a weird experience being used by a psychopath. It was a weird experience. She came over. It was awkward. He has to read these text messages in front of Paul O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's brother. It's embarrassing to him. Professionally, publicly embarrassing. This is nothing he's proud of. Who would want to do this? Who would want to be a witness in this trial? Every witness has been so evaluated and judged. I mean, not me. Not me. I don't think anyone listening to this show would want to volunteer to be a witness in this case. The only one volunteering is Dr. Russell for how many hundreds of dollars an hour? Because she's an attention seeker.
I don't think either one of us finished a drink. It was.
And a money grabber and a hired gun for the defense. That's happy to be a hired gun for the defense.
Like I said, it was this type of like, what is this all about? And then she left. I think I might have asked her to text me when she got in, so I knew she got home.
Now, that evening or at any other point, in your friendship or your relationship, whatever, however you want to term it, was there any other sort of intimate contact beyond what you described occurring as she walked you out that night you were over at Mr. O'Keefe's house for the Patriots game?
Are you asking if she ever kissed me again?
I'm asking if there was any kissing, any sexual relationship, anything at all between yourself and the defendant.
Absolutely not. In referring to at my residence when she stopped by, it was just, I was very uncomfortable, and it was just an uncomfortable situation. Just a weird vibe.
Right, Pax. Karen Read seems to be the only one who isn't under the microscope because she's done a very Scientology style offensive attack, never defend. No reporter dare do a deep dive really into Karen Read. She's thinks criminally, isn't going to leave a lot of evidence behind, but certainly there's rumors of lighting her ex-boyfriend's car on fire. Certainly rumors. Haven't been able to find proof. Screaming at her neighbor, threatening at the dog. We have proof of that. And we'll see what happens in the second trial. We'll see how successful her innocence fraud campaign is. But it will never end. If she gets convicted, the free Karen Read campaign will go on. And she will appeal, and it will go on and on and on. And the money machine will never stop rolling. Because it's so lucrative to try to get these killers out. I've watched it again and again and again. So she may get out on appeal, some kind of new evidence, something. She may get convicted of lesser charges. Certainly with the help of a lot of people on this side of the fence are saying, oh, it's manslaughter. She didn't mean to do it. I was looking at another on X, people on this side of the fence saying that Karen Read felt so terrible. She was hysterical and has felt remorse. Where have we seen that? Where have we seen remorse? I haven't seen it. Where's the remorse? I think it was Kate saying that. Remorse. Let me see if I can find that. It was so crazy. I mean, it really deserves its own episode. I'm not sure where people are getting this stuff from. Like, I've never seen Karen Read show any remorse. How can you be the happiest murder defendant and have remorse? I mean, it's like two are in opposition. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It was such a crazy, wild tweet. I'm not sure where she's getting this. Hold on. Hold on. Please hold, guys. It was so wild. I might have to take a break and find it. Wow. Hold on. Let me take a break. I'll be right back. I won't bore you with me looking for this. I'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.
We don't take a break. Grab a snack or maybe a glass of wine. Roberta will be back in no time. This podcast is listener supported, so smash that like button and subscribe or become a patron for exclusive content if you are so inclined. Have something to say? Shoot Roberta a super chat. She will do her best to read it all air without delay. Now Roberta's back and ready to put the true back in true crime. Here's Roberta.
Thanks for being patient. You guys have to see this. This is wild. This is the kind of stuff that I don't even know. I don't even know where it's coming from. I don't know what they're, you know when the free Karen readers go, what trial were you watching? That's how I feel. What Karen Read are you looking at? Okay, so it was a response. Kate says, she's a woman who got drunk. I don't think she was that drunk. She's obviously over the limit for her. I think she drank regularly and was used to it. No one there said she was that drunk that morning with her that night. No one said she seemed drunk. She was out of her mind drunk. No. Impulsively angry. Okay. Negligent. How do you put your foot on the pedal 75% down with your infotainment system beeping and flashing at you, and it's just a matter of negligence? Then failed to render any aid. So it was just like she's basically saying Karen Read hit John by accident. Karen Read is not a criminal mastermind. No one's saying she is. Who's saying she is? She's a woman with serious money at her disposal. I agree with that. And serious entitlement issues. Agree there. It's apparent that she was absolutely distraught. How is that apparent? When she realized this gravity of the situation. No, she went back, picked up her marks, Jen McCabe and Carrie, and then put on a performance that got her sectioned so that she didn't have to answer any police questions. She acted like she was she's never shown any signs. She's displayed a ton of grief, panic, shock, remorse, and guilt. When? Where? What are you saying? Where did any of those things happen? I've never seen any remorse. I've seen zero guilt. I've seen zero shock, zero panic. She knew what she did. She knew right where to find John. So is Kate saying that Karen was psychic? That she saw him before anyone did in the snow? Started hitting the car and saying, Gary, let me out, let me out. And she's screaming, Jen, Gary, Jen, all the way over to 34 Fairview. Grief? I've never seen any grief. Where's the grief? Where's the remorse? I say, I've never seen any of these emotions. Is anyone else? She worried about her own culpability. She worried about herself. She worried about keeping herself out of prison. She worried about his niece and nephew. When? She worried about how long it taken him to expire all out loud. But strangely, she got Jen to search that on her phone. So it wasn't her who was. She meant to cause serious injury and or death by clipping him with her car. That's what she did. She clipped him with her car and left him there out of hatred for him. She was so worried she would have gone back, but she didn't. She sat in the warmth of his home, went into his home like a burglar, wasn't supposed to be there. And who knows what she did? I think she plotted her next moves till about 5 a.m. and then woke up Kaylee and got everyone else to do everything for her, the way Karen Read has operated since the beginning of this thing. Get other people to, it's always by proxy. I think she fantasized about offing him. And that's the way Karen Read does things, by proxy, with her car. Great way to do it, because you can always say it was an accident. And then she acted out of her mind. So out of her mind, she didn't have to talk to the police. Acted out of her mind in a way that benefited her. But notice that she was A-okay to leave the hospital hours later. Isn't that amazing? I tell you, when you're really crazy, at least in New York, they don't let you out. Okay? They can take you. That's just the law here. They can take you and lock you up. You're the ward of the state. Happened to someone I know. This is how I know. She was worried about covering her own tracks, but with all those very deep emotions going on all at once, it's easy to assume she was somehow able to still compartmentalize and start plotting a coherent cover story. Yeah, because she's a psychopath. That's exactly what she was doing. She wasn't compartmentalizing. That's her. It's just wild that people are seeing this. Say, how can you... Has anyone seen grief? Can anyone show me an instance where they saw grief or remorse? I haven't seen it. I mean, give me examples. I mean, it's easy to say grief and remorse. She has remorse. Where? Where has she shown it? It's so bizarre. Never, right? Thank you, Legion. Never. It's bizarre. So I don't think that I think that there's a lot of nonsense on both sides of the fence going on that are not particularly helpful. I also heard other people say that she didn't mean to do it. It's manslaughter. That's what it means. Like, that's what that evidence means when you don't touch the brake, when you don't have hesitancy, when you don't stop, when you don't render aid. All those things show motive. Maybe that's a subject for another episode. All right, that's what I have for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching this with me. That was Brian Higgins. It's kind of sad, right? That's what I get, like a kind of a sad, he is a kind of sad guy. It just seems to be like another disappointment, right? But he was not going to be the easily manipulated guy and run into some kind of fling with Karen Read easily. Wasn't a good mark. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody. Gonna go out with my hit single, I Hit My Boyfriend With My Car. See you tomorrow.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet.